thought our guys had a good week of work. Obviously got a little bit of junk because of the Friday game last week, but when we got together on Monday and talked to our presser, I thought we had a really good Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Injury-wise, we're actually healthier in this game than we were last week. Juice won't be with us, but we kind of knew that on Tuesday. We knew if he wasn't cleared by Tuesday, Wednesday, just because he's been out for a while, we weren't going to bring him this game. Should be ready for next week. But other than him, that's really the only guy that was in our projected too deep before the year started. We're actually last week there were a couple guys I was worried about getting ready to go for the game, but they all played. So and then they've had even better weeks this week. So. I think the big thing for us, right, is, for us to concentrate from last week home game to being on the road. This game involves a lot of different things, obviously a road game, but just little parameters around it. Like I think we had like 2 or 3 guys of our transfer guys that played at Duke, so that was unusual. I didn't think we'd have anybody in that wheelhouse. Some of my coaches that played there, but there's a really long halftime walk. Obviously, the temperature is going to be different than it is here. So a lot of things that I think our guys have been locked into, and we'll see how it plays out on Saturday. But with that, open up for questions.
You mentioned the surface. What impact does grass versus turf
make? The turf is absolutely beautiful. I mean, I knew it was Bermuda grass, but when I started watching film, even going back in January, I literally Googled it just to make sure that it was grass. Just a pristine turf, all right? It's a really cool environment. And, so I think we practiced on grass Tuesday and Wednesday. I'm glad we did because I looked and we saw, I should be a weatherman. I knew we were going to get rain Wednesday night, so we played in the stadium today, but we got good work on Tuesday and Wednesday.
In your time as a head coach, has doing these non-conference road games been harder, different, easier? Tell me what that has been like in the time.
So crazy, but when I was in the league, I remember Bill, when we were getting ready to do my first playoff game, he actually showed how playoff teams on the road at home actually fared better over a 2-year window that I studied, right? So it really kind of opened my eyes up to just the true discrepancy. But I think the big thing is on when you haven't been to a place, right? Like there's just all kinds of semantics. I love divisional play because you play the same teams and you have a little recall. But I think just the excitement to play a team as good as Duke, to play some of the caliber of players they have out there. I have a huge respect, Manny, and then of course our guys are aware that he was at Penn State, so I think our offensive guys are really wired into that. But I think these games are fun for everybody around. I think it brings up a lot of, obviously I've been asked to do a lot of media this week. I think that was because of who we were playing, not because of us. I think it's because, Duke's a really good football team, and to get a chance for 2 teams to meet early, I think is a good deal.
What kind of stands out about the personality of Manny's teams? There's a common denominator there?
Well, he's a defensive guy, so it's always funny. Like for me as a head coach, I've really begun to understand how teams play, right? And when you play a defensive team, like a defensive head coach, I think they play a little different. There's usually some more details that don't always pop up, or in certain regards, the way the game is played. And he's a defensive guy that's very aggressive as a play caller. He's always been a very aggressive, pressure-oriented guy. This is by far the most pressure we'll see on early downs, especially than any other team that we've played or prepped for. So that in itself is unique to his style, I think. But it's the way he's always been, whether he's been at Texas, where he's been in Miami, whether he's been at Penn State. That's kind of where he's always been.
How do you hope that continuity on the offensive line helps if they run games or stunts to bring them in?
Yeah, well, what they do a little bit too is they bring pressures from all variety, like outside, inside, from the boundary, a bunch of different guys playing. I think they're very talented up front. I really think 97, 7, 99 are all really, really good players. I thought they're athletically in the linebacker level, inside and outside, and of course they got a couple of really good DBs at return. But I think just overall their team speed on defense presents challenges because it really comes from everywhere. It's not just some teams. You'll get a team that's a boundary pressure team or a field pressure team or a middle barrel team. These guys are all of it.
Just without Juice, how much can you tap into Xavier's versatility?
Yeah.
Just to give you some other options outside.
Yeah, in the first half he played all last week. He played inside, outside. A guy that's had a really good camp for us is Caleb Patterson. I thought Caleb has had a nice fall camp, and Torrey Cox, Xavier, and then a guy that's really Amar Reynolds has had a nice fall camp for us. So, and then a guy that a week ago we didn't know was going to be out there, that had played further well for us was Zanai, right? And that allows us to put more guys outside.
With Jordan Anderson, you mentioned kind of a hybrid tight end running back role for him. What made him a good fit for that? Have you done that before?
Yeah, well, 2 things. When I recruited him, I remember out of high school, there was a play at Joliet Catholic. I think it might have even been the state championship game where he caught a ball. And I remember looking at that, and I knew he was going to play running back, but I thought, this is kind of the size, frame, and speed of a tight end. So I didn't really want to do it till it was on his terms. So when, we got some running back depth in that room and I knew a tight end, I made a cut up and edit of a couple guys that, I'd seen play in the NFL were literally his same. I took their NFL combine numbers and showed him, and last year was kind of a transition, but this year during fall camp he really jumped up, and I think the best is yet to come for Jordan.
And the run game was obviously effective against Western. Did the rotation kind of work how you thought it might with those three guys?
I'd say yes and no, but I think that second half, we kind of had a plan of what we wanted guys to do, and because we were able to score pretty clear on the first half, I didn't want those guys playing when we were up by 4 or 5 scores, right? But on the same account, Caden hadn't played in a long time, so we knew we wanted to give him a lot of reps. I think Aiden, for sure is, a bona fide. To me, it's 1A, 1B, 1C, and then whatever order, I don't really care. But I do think, like I've said all along, the style of those three kind of gauges when and where they go. But it's still a little bit of a work in progress because all three of those guys are different players than they were a year ago.
Any tough decisions on the travel roster, or was it kind of cut and dry?
No, it always gets down to those last 4 or 5. And I knew Jaheim on Tuesday. I'd kind of put him out, but Tyson Rooks was the other guy. I'm sorry, that in the corner who last week we didn't know if he was going to play in the game, and he literally got cleared on Wednesday, Thursday, played real well. He's had a great week of practice. So we are going to travel Bartolotta just because he kind of has done a really good job for us. TJ Griffin, he's another guy that, even though the guys may not play for the last scrimmage, they help us out on special teams. So those 2 guys got added on at the last minute there, which has been an awesome thing for us special teams wise.
What kind of stands out about that Duke passing game? Do they throw like a lot of intermediate or deep shots? And what do you think about some of those?
A little bit of both.
receivers?
Obviously we only have one with Menza at Duke, but I think what he did in his past, right? You can definitely carry that forward, and then even though it was a different quarterback, last year's quarterback had a lot of very similar skill sets, and they used him certain spots. I don't know their offensive coordinator very well, but I have a lot of respect for his background, his history, and the way he calls it. Seeing his interviews, obviously he's a very engaging guy. You can tell he plays to his player strengths. So I think we'll get a little bit of everything. He throws, the very first pass completion on Saturday was, or Thursday, I guess, was a little bootleg out to the field, which kind of showcased his ability to move. It was to his left, which is not always easy for some quarterbacks that are right-handed. So just a lot of different things that he brings to the table that are difficult to defend.
How has Malachi Hood improved since last year, and what can that be for maybe a bigger role for him?
He's probably a guy that, in my opinion, I've kind of always thought that he'd be a really good player, but he battled through the couple injury issues, and then I think that confidence level needed to come. And Malachi, as you guys have interviewed him, is a very kind of just a steady, calm, and I think last year during the spring you could kind of see the light bulb come on a little bit. Yeah, those last couple games, Northwestern game made a huge play, obviously Michigan game on the punch out, right? But like just little things that gave him confidence, and his mom and dad are just so powerful people. I think everybody just kept pouring into him and said, hey, this is sitting here waiting on you, and he plays like our strength coaches. I remember when he was an early player, they said, Bret, he's literally one of our most explosive, big skill players, which is, not DBs and wideouts, but the next level of how explosive he is, and that's really come to life.
We got another sellout
One more
today announced. Another sellout today announced. Have you been surprised at all? I know you knew if you won that would follow, but have you been surprised at how quickly it's
What's
happened?
USC?
Yeah.
But I tell you what, when we had 11,000 students here last week, I knew that good things were happening. Again, it's the experience. I love winning, don't get me wrong. I love winning and what that brings you. But at this point in my career, there's these little moments where you're like, it's just special, right? And I'm telling you, when I see people celebrating as a family after a game, like when I see dads or moms with kids and they get to experience a day, like I know they went to the game, but it's the day, right? And that's the stuff that I hope is coming out of it. People get to come back, get to wear their shirts with pride, get to wear their hats, get to go wherever they live in their country, give an ILL, walking down the street. That to me is the fun stuff that really exists.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thanks, Coach.